Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And once again, this is the one-day chart. We're sitting here at $2.80. Once again, today is a bloodbath for XRP. But this market is going to turn around. Right now, everybody's saying the bottom is now in. Get ready for $5 plus for XRP. And if you look at the one-year chart, the one-year chart for XRP looks absolutely incredible. We are still holding up very well. But a lot of people are expecting an even deeper pullback before we finally blast off. And look at Bitcoin, down under 122K. We're still following Bitcoin as well. People don't understand that. When Bitcoin dips, the rest of the market goes with it still. Eventually, XRP will decouple from Bitcoin. We're just not to that point yet. Credible Crypto says, we blast through it. Now that we've made new all-time highs in an impulsive manner, the next leg to 150K plus has begun. So he's thinking that Bitcoin is going to continue upward from here and head towards 165K. But you see the pullbacks on the way up. And those same pullbacks are going to happen with XRP. They might not be as deep of a pullback because we're about to get institutional money into XRP through the ETFs. Bitcoin already had their ETFs. They got the first mover advantage as well when it came to ETFs. And now it's XRP's turn. We're finally getting a level playing field. And in a level playing field, I think XRP will eventually fully decouple from Bitcoin. But expect pullbacks to happen along the way. XRP faces 20% downside risk before potential $5 reversal. Like I said, they're expecting it to go even lower possibly before the breakout begins. Now, when that breakout begins, it's going to happen very quick. People don't realize that. They think it's going to gradually go upward. I think we're going to see big spikes on the price of XRP. Will it happen before the ETFs go live? That's what everybody's waiting to see, because they're expecting this inflow of money to show up while people are positioning themselves ahead of the ETFs. But the ETFs alone can get us really moving very fast to the upside. It depends on where we go from here. With the government shutdown, it leaves a lot of people speculating on what's going to happen next. And it has a lot of people still sitting on the sidelines as well, reluctant to enter this space. That's why it's important for crypto if the government reopens. I think Atkins will most likely fast track the ETFs once the government reopens. Big news. This comes from Reese Merrick. Ripple is expanding into the Kingdom of Bahrain. Through our new partnership with FinTech Bay, we will drive adoption and education around blockchain, as well as support pilot projects across Bahrain's digital asset ecosystem. This move builds on Ripple's growing presence in the Middle East and paves the way for us to begin offering our products to institutions in Bahrain in due course. And this is an article that Ripple put out earlier today. The Kingdom of Bahrain has emerged as an early adopter of blockchain technology and was one of the first jurisdictions globally to regulate crypto assets. At Ripple, we look forward to working with Bahrain FinTech Bay to continue laying the foundation for a thriving local blockchain industry, as well as ultimately offering our digital asset custody solution and RLUSD to Bahrain's financial institutions. This is a big expansion because this gives Ripple a very good foundation in the Middle East and Africa as well. It's all about rails from one country to another. Bitcoin Telegraph would have you believe Luxembourg is all about Bitcoin. So I'll just leave this here. The Luxembourg delegation stopped at the Ripple's office in San Francisco. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse sporting our glasses and looking good. And you see it right here. But they want you to believe it's all about Bitcoin. And it's not. These rails that Ripple's putting out there, they're for XRP to run on. These countries could care less about Bitcoin. They know the direction the world's going in. Everything's going to asset-backed currencies. Everybody's going to have their own currency. They're pushing away from the US dollar. That's why they're stockpiling gold. Chris Larson says banks are cautious, but once you begin connecting them, the network effect can take hold. Take a listen.
Yeah, we just announced that we signed up CBW out of Kansas and Cross River Bank out of New Jersey. And obviously with banks, banks are rightly careful about any new technology for regulatory purposes and for stability purposes. So, these conversations do take a while, 6 months to a year, we think, to really sort of introduce the concept and then how can it be applied and then starting talking about pilots. But we're really pleased. These are the first U.S. banks now on the Ripple protocol. So we think we are starting to get our message out there that these new technologies, distributed ledgers, really can be seen as alternatives, really viable alternatives to correspondent banking. And that's very powerful for particularly these smaller banks that otherwise have to rely on correspondent banks.
Okay. So am I right in thinking the strategy is then to get kind of a nationwide deployment of Ripple? And if so, how is that going to work? What's the strategy?
Yeah, so the strategy really is now first try to get a bank in each of the key regions of the world. Because if you can connect one bank on ACH in the US to one bank on SEPA in Europe, you have effectively connected all of the banks on those two networks. So you really get a multiplier effect. Now we have this Fedor out of Germany on SEPA, and we have now these two US banks on ACH. Now we got to work on China, we got to work in South America, India, and really continue to spread it and get to some of the bank networks. So definitely getting banks as gateways to bring currencies onto the platform is very important. And then along with that, bringing market makers to make markets between those currencies, cross currencies. We've already been pretty successful there. We have about 7 institutional market makers already. Now it's really kind of filling it up with banks. Yeah,
And that's why those rails are so important. It creates a network effect. All you got to do is connect 2 banks. Then all of a sudden you're connecting a handful of banks. And before you know it, every single bank is connected to the network. And take notice, he said they're going after smaller banks. That's because if you connect the smaller banks, you allow those banks to have competition with the biggest banks out there. Think about it like this. JP Morgan, say they're sending payments over SWIFT. It's expensive and it takes a lot of time. Now, a small bank that can move that same amount of money for a fraction of a penny in a matter of seconds, all of a sudden starts to gain the upper hand on even the biggest banks in the world. And you see, with MiCA now rolled out across the EU, nations like Luxembourg have the opportunity to take a global lead when it comes to developing their local digital asset industry. And Ripple meets with all of the right people in the right places, if you take notice to that. Because if they get this going in, say, Luxembourg, and they get something else going in, let's say, in the United States, all of a sudden you set up a payment rail. And that's what XRP will run on in the future. It'll be moving money on a daily basis in between those 2 countries. And before you know it, XRP is utilized all around the world. That's how Ripple eventually replaces SWIFT as well. This comes from Smoke. XRP is poised to directly benefit from the accelerating demand for RLUSD. The reason I wanted to mention this is because right away people say, well, that just benefits RLUSD. That doesn't benefit XRP. As RLUSD adoption accelerates, it is expected to attract new DeFi protocols, payment partners, and enterprise integrations to the XRP ledger, boosting network activity and driving sustained demand for XRP. They work together. Sure, RLUSD is great. It's a great door opener. So a lot of banks, they're very reluctant to use a cryptocurrency. So you get them used to using RLUSD, and then all of a sudden you say, well, if you replace RLUSD with XRP, it now is cheaper and even faster. And that's where they will all go eventually, because XRP is the bridge currency. Fed Chair Jerome Powell made no comments on monetary policy or the economic outlook. Of course he didn't. This guy does nothing. You know, he creates inflation and then pretends to fight inflation at the same time. And you know who pays for it? The American people. And people are fed up. I mean, it's time to have major rate cuts in the United States. And he knows that rate cuts would also affect the stock market and crypto and so on. But yet he does nothing. This comes from King Valex. Crypto Val told you the Democrats purposely was stalling crypto legislation with the crypto market structure bill with government shutdown. Eleanor Tourette says a dust-up between Senate Democrats and Republicans over a leaked DeFi regulation proposal from Democrats is unfolding behind the scenes, stalling bipartisan market structure talks and potentially pushing a markup date even further out. More to come in tomorrow's Crypto America newsletter. So to stop crypto innovation, they allowed the government to just shut down. And they're fighting back against this. But Brian Steele pushes to pass Clarity Act by the end of the year. Take a listen.
I think we still have an opportunity to get clarity across the line by the end of the year, although the focus and attention is making sure that we get the government back open. There's a lot of ongoing conversations as well about clarity and market structure on the Senate side. I'm actually continuing in conversations with some of my Senate colleagues on that topic throughout the week this week. And so I'm hopeful that as we come on the other side of the shutdown, that we have an opportunity to hit the ground running and have the Senate move forward quickly. I think the opportunity there is to build on the success that we had in the House legislation. And if the Senate chooses to use the House text as their base text, I think what we have is an opportunity to get this bill still done, signed into law by the end of the year.
Let's hope that happens, because if they get this done by the end of the year, it's only going to push XRP even higher during alt season. This is going to be great for utility-driven cryptocurrencies more than any other cryptocurrency out there, because it's going to tell the institutions, okay, this is a utility-driven cryptocurrency. It has a real-world use case, and people want to use it. There's a lot of demand for it. This over here is speculation, and it's very risky to invest into this asset. And that's why a lot of meme coins are going to disappear as well. The days of the wild, wild west in crypto are about to come to an end. And everybody talks about the escrow. I don't get it. They're still going on about this. So Fishy Catfish says, well, every other protocol with a token burn is trying to maximize their token burn to benefit token holders. You are the only man alive celebrating how low your token burn is. Bill Morgan says, but that is the greatest point ever made for the value of XRP. Having to burn tokens to increase value is a real sign of lack of value. And so the issuer needs to artificially create scarcity to increase value by effectively getting rid of tokens. Who deliberately wants to reduce something that is valuable? It's not even rational. And it's true. If XRP had no value, right? Why then would Ripple keep locking back XRP into the escrow? They wouldn't. They would just leave it out there on the open market. People don't realize that Ripple uses that escrow strategically. They want to utilize it to make more acquisitions. And as they do that, it brings more utility to XRP as well. But like I said at the beginning of this video, we may go even lower yet. This is the moment you either buy the dip or do nothing. You don't panic sell. You don't listen to all these emotional people that are overinvested saying that they're selling off their XRP. They're going all in on Chainlink, or they're going all in on this meme coin or that meme coin. You wait it out because you already know what's coming. You already know that XRP is going to have a fantastic run. People always say, well, how can he make these videos every day? What you don't realize is I just want to keep you going so you get that financial freedom. I really do want to get rich with all of you. You know, there's people out there that only care about themselves. I care about every single one of you. I want to get cross the finish line with all of you. That's what this was always about for me. It's the same reason I'm not selling you something every single day or telling you to join my Patreon. I don't want your money. All I care about is getting you to financial freedom. That's why I make these videos every single day. And some days it's very frustrating. When you look at a chart like this, it's really hard to say, hey, listen, you know, you got to make it through this one to hopefully get to the finish line. But I know it's coming. You know it's coming. All you got to do is get through the red days without selling too soon. And definitely don't fall into a scam and lose your crypto. And until it all happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.